Ja, idag måste du run and mag måste då. Ja, idag måste du run all din skan and mag was. Dear Diary, today, when I took Diamond on a walk, it was raining. As I left the house, the water was standing at least an inch or two above the ground. I was sort of surprised that I was holding water because the rain wasn't coming down that much hard. And so Diamond and I continued on our way to go to Tom Petty Park. By the time Diamond and I reached Tom Petty Park, the water was up to my knees and Diamond was sort of hopping along on her sort of chubby little legs with her head, still above the water, but she was struggling to get through it. And then by the time we sort of made it to the field where she could run around and play, she could no longer run, but she was now swimming. And I thought all was well and good because it couldn't get much higher and the ground certainly couldn't hold much more water than this. But then all the power went out. And then it just seemed like a few seconds had passed, but all of a sudden, the water was up to my waist, Diamond was treading water, and it was growing steadier until a few minutes later, I was treading water, helping keep Diamond afloat, though her wide girth was also keeping her afloat. And she was sort of having fun. We were both having fun. We were like, how are we going to get out of this? Because it was completely dark. There's certainly no way that we could swim all the way back to our home. So the water kept rising, most of the landscape of Tom Petty Park was disappearing under this rising water. And I was starting to get worried, but we found a tree to cling on to, so we sort of had something to rest on, so I didn't have to tread water and hold Diamond up the whole time. But then the water was rising above that tree, and then I started to get worried because I realized it had been a while since we had been at Tom Petty Park, and now we could no longer see Tom Petty Park because everything was covered in water. And there was no lights, and it was dark out, and you couldn't see anything. But then, it was almost like a mirage. There was this bright sort of light heading our way, and it turned out to be a barge boat. And as it got closer, you could tell the details on the barge boat, and it wasn't just a barge boat, but it was a barge. It was like a barge trash boat, like a giant barge boat that was pushing trash. And so we swam over to the barge boat, and I'm calling out, I'm like, hey, it's me, I got my dog down here, do you think you could let us on the barge? And then the front of the barge boat opened up sort of like a big mouth, and we crawled inside. It was real dark and stuffy, and it had that sort of rotten banana smell that trash bins have. So we're sitting in the dark of this barge boat, and we're dry, feeling grateful. Not really sure, we're all alone because we're inside the hull of the barge boat. And then all of a sudden, the boat began tossing back and forth like it was rocky waves, and it's like we were getting thrown to one side, trash was falling down, like all these stacks of trash were falling over on top of us. Diamond was having a good time because she loves trash. But then, I guess the captain's voice came over the speaker and he gave a call to abandon ship. And you could sort of hear in the background someone next to him say, but what about the people in the hull? And then the boat started listing to its side real sharply, and we all fell to the listed side, and then I heard this like loud rushing sound of water that started to get nearer and nearer. All right, that's it for today, diary. Dear Dear Diary, today on my walk to Tom Petty Park, as Diamond and I were walking through the field, scurrying amongst dandelions, and Diamond was using the bathroom, I overheard two toddlers in a dialogue that concerned the function of entertainment. It was really trying to get at what was the purpose of entertainment. So there was this one toddler who was building a sandcastle, and then there was the other toddler who had a caterpillar front loader toy. And I just sort of want to go over this conversation just for notes for posterity and record it in my diary. And so the first toddler with the sandcastle, he pulled out his iPhone and he was like, I'm gonna look up what is the purpose of entertainment. And the result was on Quora.com, the first result under the title, What is the Purpose of Entertainment, was Jimmy Dillon, who is a search engine optimization expert. And so Jimmy Dillon, the search engine optimization expert, went into this for what the purpose of entertainment is. And I'm going to record this here. So the purpose of entertainment is to provide pleasure and enjoyment. This can be accomplished by providing great stories, characters, music, and visuals. It is also important to make the experience interactive so that viewers feel like they are part of the story. Entertainment often helps us escape from our everyday lives for a little while and forget about everything else. As technology continues to evolve, it becomes even more important for creators of entertainment content to keep up with the changing trends in order not to lose fans or subscribers. By creating immersive experiences that capture people's attention from beginning to end, Hollywood producers will continue to dominate the entertainment industry into the future. So Caterpillar responded, I'd like to go through that answer. Caterpillar said, so according to Jimmy Dillon, the search engine optimization expert, the purpose of entertainment is to provide pleasure and enjoyment. That's like the main function. We derive pleasure and enjoyment from entertainment. Now, how is this pleasure and enjoyment derived? Sandcastle responded, well, according to Jimmy Dillon, the search engine optimization expert, this pleasure is derived through stories, characters, music, and visuals to create this sort of immersive world. And then through that immersive world, interactive experience, the viewers are able to escape from their everyday lives and forget. Caterpillar focus sort of on these words, the escape from our everyday lives for little and forget. So Caterpillar went on and said, so it's not like, let's look at the quality of this escape. Like, it's not a permanent escape. It's not like an escape like brain damage. It's not an escape where it's gone forever, but it's an escape that's just a temporary escape. It's an escape that's sort of like a lunar eclipse. And Sandcastle responded, right, I mean, you have permanent forgetting, which is, sort of like you're saying, not brain damage or Alzheimer's. Or it's, one could even extend the idea of permanent forgetting to, this idea of gentrification, what's happened in Kashgar or Tibet or, any inner city America or even, Gainesville. Like, look around us. We're in Tom Petty Park right now. And then Caterpillar, the other toddler, responded, yeah, but I think it's just that idea of escape that's, like, bothering me. Like, what are we escaping from? Because you often think of escape as in, we're stuck in our class and it's boring and the teacher isn't really teaching us anything new, so I want to escape so I can play with, my front loader. And you want to escape so you can play with your sandcastle and build sandcastles. Like escape is, for us, it's something that we want to do so we can and do something. Whereas this is an escape that's all involved with forgetting. Like, it's a type of escape. And then, it's only a temporary forgetting, so, like, what's the good? Like, is temporary forgetting good? Sandcastle responded, it's like, I guess, there's all kinds of forgetting. Just like, I guess there could be more than one kind of entertainment. Caterpillar was like, most kids that we hang out with when we're in preschool, because, we're toddlers, most kids, they don't really do anything except for, they're on their phones and stuff, and they're like watching cartoons and stuff, and, they don't know the pleasure of rooming around with this front loader, this Caterpillar, and they don't know the pleasure of, clumping together sand and stacking it up tight into a sandcastle. Like, they're just sort of, watching cartoons, and to me, that's sort of like the pleasure of forgetting. And Sandcastle was like, you're right. But then there's probably also types of pleasure, like the pleasure I get from, drinking some milk or eating cereal in the morning. Like, that's a certain kind of pleasure, and it's a different kind of pleasure that I get from doing the sandcastle. Because when I'm doing the sandcastle, in some degree, it's sort of like this pleasure of remembering, which is the opposite of what Jimmy Dillon, the search engine optimization expert, says. Caterpillar responded, and he was like, that's right. I guess there can be types of entertainment that are about remembering. And it's funny how, like, remembering is this process that's not necessarily normal to the function of our toddler bodies. And I guess that's the same for all bodies. All bodies don't necessarily remember, and it has to be an intentful way of remembering. Sandcastle was like, yeah, I guess there has to be, like, these entertainments of remembering. Because, if it's an unexamined life, it's not necessarily worth remembering, If you're not looking at your life, then it's not worth remembering. Then, at that point, Caterpillar lifted the front loader toy up in the air, and then with a mighty roar said, I'll show you something worth remembering, and then went vroom and crashed it into the sandcastle. And I would have stuck around and listened more to the dialogue, and I'm certain, like, large points have evaded me right now, but Diamond saw some other dogs off in the distance and then ran off, and so I went to go follow after her. Alright, that's it for today, diary. Dear Diary, today, when Diamond and I went out to Tom Petty Park, that sort of creepy old man that I saw a few days, and I've been seeing him off and on, like, I don't really know what to think about it. So he's sitting on this bench, sort of all by himself, and then I see flying around him is this butterfly, and it's almost like the butterfly is in concert with his hands, because he moves his hands, and then the butterfly swoops in and out and in between, and he's just sort of dancing with the butterfly, like inches from his hands, and it's just twirling all around him. I sort of thought it was a pet butterfly, but then I start getting closer to him just out of curiosity, checking him out, and there's a string connected from the man. It's like he has it on a stick to the back of the butterfly, and so the butterfly is tethered to a string, just flying around this man. And now I notice that the butterfly is not hovering at him, but it like gets close to him, and then it pushes off, almost trying to escape, but then like sort of like a yo-yo, the string just like catches him and then pulls him back in, and then it's this repeat process of this butterfly trying to get away from this man, but it's tied down on a string. And then I look even closer, and the string isn't tied to the back of the butterfly, but there's a giant screw in the butterfly's flesh that sort of is like screwed deep into the flesh of the butterfly. And it's just flying or trying to fly away, and the man's like smiling and his hands are moving, but then the butterfly comes back and it's trying to fly away, and then it comes back. And he's just sitting there, and I can't really tell like the expressions on his face. But it's just, and I just don't know what to think about it. Like, I'm sort of lost for words. It may not sound, but I just don't know. Alright, that's it for today.